So it hasn't really been a great year for the Walt Disney Company, especially when it comes down to Lucasfilm with the Acolyte series ratings disaster, and among other projects varying across, other different divisions that have been failing one after the other. Bob Iger really failed to deliver this year, and with 2025 looming essentially to have a lot of other challenges, it's not looking good for that year either, as he does plan to step down by at some point in 2026. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, Jenna Ortega and Rachel Zegler. There's been a lot of things going on behind closed doors over at the Disney Company. We have a lot to discuss today, but what's really interesting about this is that a lot of it has to do with one of their other divisions that's been struggling, and that's also been, by the way, going through firings, alright? A lot of employees getting booted from the company over the past couple of months by Disney, and that is of course Pixar. Now we know that Pixar has had a lot of failures before, with the exception of Inside Out 2. That was a massive success on Disney's front because it shied away from the typical Disney messaging, and when we look at everything else related down the pipeline, we know that 2025, 26, and 27 are going to be very crucial years for this company, and I really don't see it stretching beyond 2026 at this rate unless they really do improve things at a drastic level. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot more to do with what Jenna Ortega recently did against Rachel Zegler and why it's creating a lot of chaos between the two actresses, the Disney executives, and those over at Disney Pixar. Let's discuss, shall we? Now, what's interesting about this moving onwards is that now that both Bob Iger and the Disney executives are in a constant shakeup over the financial status for the Walt Disney Company, one major development going on now involves more to do with Jenna Ortega and Rachel Zegler and the ongoing Disney drama behind the scenes. Now, a crucial update to this situation involves how, as it turns out, Ortega is taking over a role that was offered to Rachel Zegler initially for Toy Story 5 via Disney Pixar for a brand new main character entering into the film that's going to center on toys versus technology. Now, after all of the Snow White drama and Zegler losing roles at Disney left and right, the latest project that she was removed from by the Disney executives was the 2026 Toy Story film that is now no longer going to use Rachel Zegler providing voiceover work. This project was best described as one of the last projects that Zegler had standing with Disney apart from Snow White after they started firing her from multiple projects one after the other ever since the Disney PR disaster. Now, with Ortega now taking over, it's described that getting the role was very competitive. The role in Toy Story 5 was going to pay Zegler an estimated, get this, $5 to $6 million just for starters in total that will now be offered to Jenna instead. Jenna reportedly is set to play a character that will fall into the technological side of the story. There are rumblings that it may very well be a smartphone character. This officially makes Snow White the last standing project for Zegler at the Disney Company after the executives dropped her from the 5th Toy Story film, and already it's creating a serious grudge between the two actresses, where Zegler is already blaming the Disney executives for doing that transition in the most unprofessional way possible, as she claims. Zegler is already on the blame game train right now behind the scenes, that Jenna Ortega should have not taken the role, and that Jenna should have known better to not interfere with her status in the cast of Toy Story 5. This essentially shows just how self-absorbed Zegler truly is behind the scenes when it involves projects that she was losing left and right. This comes weeks after Jenna attempted to provide advice for Zegler on how to handle PR interviews, especially for Snow White, and Rachel shot down Jenna's advice in a heated argument behind the scenes. This was the beginning of the grudge between the two actresses that are associated with the Walt Disney Company. So far, Jenna actually decided to begin doing voiceover work for this new mysterious character by the middle of 2025. Now guys, let me just stop here for one moment. Now, basically, I don't even think that we need a 5th Toy Story film. That's just my own opinion. You guys can say what you will. But what's interesting about this is the fact that going back a couple of months ago, you guys may recall we talked about this, Jenna was trying to provide advice for Rachel to kind of help her out in this business, to help her out in the PR area. on Snow White, and it really struck a nerve with Rachel Zegler. She got very defensive, she got in a very much heated argument behind closed doors, and that's where things began to ripple between the two actresses, where they kind of went their separate ways essentially. Now, when you look at Toy Story 5, we know it's going to have a very, very large cast. A very large cast. By far the biggest one out of all the 5 Toy Story movies. And Jenna, as of right now, is on the top of the list. Rachel was supposed to be on that list, and she's taking it very personally. Now, like I said earlier, this was the last project standing for Rachel Zegler after Snow White, because she was supposed to have Pirates of the Caribbean, she was supposed to have another mysterious Pixar project, as well as somewhat getting involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that is no more. So basically her financial status, her overall acting career, the future of that is just minimizing year by year. So far, everything that she has starred in, everything that she has been involved in, for the most part, have been either box office failures, or have been universally rejected, or have had heavy criticism, to say the least. So this is where things begin to go out of control even further, is that on top of everything here, Zegler is already demanding the Disney executives to reverse their action on hiring Jenna, and is warning to take some form of action toward the studio if nothing is done about it at all by the middle of next year. This comes shortly after Disney started to cancel many of Zegler's marketing events for Snow White 25. After this, of course, Zegler doesn't have many projects at all that are planned to pay in the millions as high as Toy Story 5. Nowhere near close to that, in fact, and it's causing her to panic about her future as an actress. So, look, we know that $5 to $6 million to her obviously is a very big deal, because her acting career, she's trying to get it started, right? She's trying to get some success points, and let's be honest, and I just mentioned this, she hasn't had many success points. She's had more failed moments in her career than success areas. So, looking back at the PR disaster for Snow White 2025, how she was in the movie Shazam that didn't do all too well for her, specifically, as well as Y2K, that's not doing good, as well as among others out there that are either released or yet to be released, that are already getting terrible criticism, by the way, bad reviews, and first impressions aren't looking too good for a lot of upcoming films and/or films that have already dropped. But like I've said before, I mean, it seems like she gets very defensive, gets very much personally offended, if you will, when it comes down to the film industry and how the business operates and how it is very competitive. Things do change. The executives change their minds. They have a change of heart, and they lose trust in specific actors and/or actresses based on their behavior. I mean, that's just how things work, you know? If you say crazy things, they're not going to want to work with you in the long run. And that's what they learned the hard way. So overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this ongoing situation at the Disney company, and how it's just really chaos over there, and everything else related to the whole Zegler situation that's been going on for roughly 2 years now. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.